Hello, I'm Tom Still, President of the Wisconsin Technology Council. Hey, I'm sorry I couldn't be there live with you today, but I know my friends Jim Wood and Dennis Winters have already provided some excellent background, and I'm hoping I can build on that in the next few minutes. So, what's the Tech Council? What do we do? We live in a world of policy development, communications, networking events, best practices, do some research and analysis. We're a membership group, and it includes investors and many other folks who are in that tech-based world. We do things like portfolio, which is all about investments in Wisconsin, hold regular webinars on tech-based topics, a lot of legislative initiatives, both at the state and sometimes the federal level. And we have some major conferences like the Tech Summit, the Entrepreneurs Conference, the Early Stage Symposium. We're a key strategic partner of WEDC, proud of that. And we're a partner in some National Science Foundation engine projects. I'll tell you more about that later. Also, we've run the Wisconsin Governor's Business Plan Contest since 2004. And so that's going to be culminating in early June at our Entrepreneurs Conference in Milwaukee. These are some logos you may have seen over time. You may not know they were affiliated with us, but that's just a quick glance at our family of programs. I love this map. It's probably at least 120 years old, and it talks about, it speaks to our historic strengths. You can see some of them there, and there are a lot of them are ag and resource related. Some things change, some things haven't. Agriculture today is all about food processing, safety, precision farming and robotics, animal health and hygiene, genetics, organics, food as medicine. That's all part of today's ag scene. Natural resources, as we see more with biofuels and bioproducts, solar, treatment systems, digesters, freshwater tech, which Wisconsin is really strong in, batteries and grid storage. Those are all things that also have applications in a rural setting. While tourism and recreation was hit during COVID, people are probably sticking closer to home right now. Plus, it's easier on a lot of budgets. Manufacturing. We're the number 2 manufacturing state in the country in per capita terms. That's really strong. And it's become more and more advanced manufacturing or tech-based manufacturing. And it's going through all of the sectors that we see in Wisconsin, from paper and pulp to the tool and die to just about anything you can name. And our OEMs, our original equipment manufacturers, are a big part of that because they serve supply chains throughout the country and throughout the world. So are there really 2 economies? Well, my answer is a yes. Unfortunately, 40 of Wisconsin's 72 counties recorded average weekly wages, and this is from last quarter of 2023, in the bottom 2 quartiles. That's from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I think we need to do better. And, there's some things at a policy front that we watch that we want to make sure that rural Wisconsin is getting a fair shake in all this. The New York Times reported about a month ago that more than $1 billion in federal assistance has gone to Milwaukee County alone through the American Rescue Plan, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and the Inflation and Reduction Act. We definitely think at the Tech Council, rural Wisconsin needs more love. Some other reasons why there are 2 economies. Metro areas continue to forge ahead. Once Madison was the only really identifiable tech hub in the state. Now Milwaukee, Green Bay, the Fox Cities, Chippewa Valley, they're all in the mix, and they're creating internal competition for talent, which sometimes is taken from rural areas. Demographics can work against rural Wisconsin for the most part. Legal immigration has to be a part of the answer. I know there's a huge debate nationally about illegal immigration, and rightfully so, but there are going to be people who come to Wisconsin, come to this country, and want to work and want to do so legally. Healthcare is being challenged. Emergency medical services and over large distances are a problem in some rural areas. There are fewer specialties sometimes that are available to people who live in rural areas. Anesthesiologists are in short supply. Mental health access, poor diet and lifestyle can aggregate health problems for some people. It's not just a Wisconsin issue, but you can't see it in Wisconsin. We have a higher percentage of patients in the state who are on Medicare or Medicaid. Now we can't fix that really. That's a Washington D.C. Sort of issue, but does mean that we have to work on the other end with innovation and cost controls and different models for healthcare that can bring things into better scope. Just recently we were in Eau Claire where there was a great discussion about creating a rural healthcare center, innovation center, and I think that's going to be something that can play out over time. Transportation is an issue. Who watches the kids and childcare? Who watches the kids or the grandparents if your job's 30 miles away? And a large percentage of people, especially in the lower income stratas in Wisconsin, don't have any real broadband access. You can't work at home if you can't connect. This one may seem a softer kind of point, but the decline of community newspapers, I mean weeklies, twice weeklies, is a bigger problem than you might think. Historically, these were important vehicles for information and community cohesion. I think they need to survive for communities to do better in terms of talking with themselves. Mass transit doesn't really exist in any scale in most rural communities, can be inefficient, but same thing can hold in big cities like Madison, where bus systems are hard enough to make work. The Universities of Wisconsin system is downsizing. That's especially true with some of the two-year campuses that are more rural in location. Private colleges are under pressure too, and again, demographics is a factor. Tech colleges can be more attractive if there are jobs to be found, and the tech colleges in Wisconsin do a great job, but there need to be more internships and other kinds of things that help those young people get off and running. Housing stock tends to be a little older in parts of Wisconsin, especially rural Wisconsin, or in some cases not available really at all. And while rural Wisconsin has some really good schools, and I think Wisconsin overall, it's not often a neighborhood walk for the kids, and some of those schools can't always offer all the things that urban settings do. There are some solutions, at least possible solutions that are out there. No matter what you think about globalization or protectionism, both major U.S. parties are appearing more and more protectionist. There are more tariffs on foreign goods. Now, that could lead to more onshoring or homeshoring of manufacturing and supply chain fulfillment. There may be some larger economic issues down the road with that, but if it continues in that bipartisan way, at least there's some opportunity to have some things brought home to Wisconsin. Green energy trends will mean more tapping of Wisconsin resources and land, and because a lot of industries can be just about anywhere. Everybody has to worry about water and energy costs. And so I think rural Wisconsin is going to be a part of some solutions there. Now, early stage investing is not exclusively big cities, although mainly so. And there are some early stage funds and networks outside Madison, Milwaukee area, and more to come on that. We'll talk a little more. There's also been continued investment in the Wisconsin Fund of Funds program, known as the Badger Fund of Funds, and we helped create that with the legislature in the mid-2010s. The Qualified New Business Venture Law took effect in 2005. We worked on that too, and was just changed this session to allow the transfer of angel tax investment credits from people out of state who might invest in Wisconsin deals. So that's similar to what's already available on the venture capital side and an improvement. And this is why I couldn't be with you this morning. I joined Governor Evers and others in announcing the details of a new Wisconsin investment fund. It will match the state's allotment of $50 million through the U.S. Treasury Department and its state small business credit initiative, and combine that with $50 million in private money from well-vetted venture funds. It was authorized by Congress through the American Rescue Plan Act, so good to see some of that money getting into areas of Wisconsin. Those funds will be looking for deals in all corners of the state, I think with a particular emphasis in investing in people, places, and sectors that are sometimes off the beaten path. I expect to see more ag-related investments, for example. And at least we deployed in what the Treasury describes as socially and economic disadvantaged people and communities. Well, that can be parts of rural Wisconsin. What's the current investment picture look like? 2000, in the year 2000, there were only about a half dozen angel networks or venture capital funds in Wisconsin. Today, there are about 55, as this map portrays. Now, again, many of them are in major metro areas, but we're starting to see things spread beyond that and have some really excellent investors who are in parts of the state that could use the attention and hopefully the dollars as well. And so it's become a little more dense in Wisconsin than it's been really certainly at any time in the past. Here's what's happening in terms of those annual trends. This past year, 2023, there were 107 deals. That's reflected in the gold line that raised about 490 million collectively. That was about the exact same number of deals from 2022, although more was raised. And in 2021, that was the record year in Wisconsin by far and away, with 869 million in investments in a large number of deals. So why is that curve down all of a sudden? Well, as the next slide will tell us, it's mostly about what's going on nationally. The lack of IPOs, interest rates, other things that have locked up this type of capital have made it more difficult for some of these deals to get done. We think that we could be seeing an upswing, but come 2025, and that's good. But that's part of the problem right now, are mostly national trends. This next slide really shows that. Almost the exact same pattern, right? When you look at this bar graph, same pattern is rising through the mid 2010s, big year in 2021, down a little bit in 2022, and then down again in 2023, but largely equal to 2020. That's what we're seeing around the country as well. So we think we have a firm foundation here. We just need to do more to build on. And a lot of solutions don't necessarily involve money. I mean, Wisconsin's generally got a predictable cost of doing business. We have water, power, and infrastructure and strong supply. Municipal utilities in Wisconsin supply 11% of the total power, and that's really dispersed around the state. We have a lot of geological stability. Thankfully, no earthquakes, hurricanes. Yes, we can get tornadoes, but no tsunamis either, obviously, unless Lake Superior is getting a lot more choppy than I thought. But that's good. I mean, people want to have that kind of sense of comfort about where they are physically. We're one of the few states with a fully funded public pension fund. The State of Wisconsin Investment Board is part of managing that. Look at the state of Illinois, for example. It's one of the worst when it comes to how their pension fund is funded. That's a tax increase waiting to happen. And so we're fortunate that we have that kind of stability as well. In fact, overall, our tax burden is decreasing. We've gone from the top 5 not so long ago to the mid-teens. State budget will end this coming fiscal year 2025 with a balance. And it's the kind of state I think is appealing to retirees, mid-career people, millennials alike. And we have a lot of resources here. Here's a few that I just have listed on this particular slide that are very rural oriented, and I think part of trying to make things happen. And, this is another strength, I believe, because Wisconsin really is a state of mid-sized cities. Only Milwaukee and Madison are in the top 100. Green Bay's just outside, Kenosha's not too far outside, Racine, Appleton, strong cities. And a lot of time, and there are 12 cities in Wisconsin with populations of 50,000 or more, and a bunch more in smaller increments. So rural areas can be proximate to such cities and draw strength from them. And that's in part, I think, communities don't bowl alone per se. There are businesses and trade associations. The Greater Wausau Chamber is an excellent example. Regional economic development groups. Higher education plays a huge role. K-12, state and federal governments, and other institutions like utilities and healthcare institutions. So it all can work together to try to make for a healthier rural Wisconsin. Here's another look at some of the resources in the state. It's kind of an eye chart, but take my word for it. A lot of this didn't exist 20 years ago or even 15 years ago. And so these are other different pieces that can come to play in parts of rural Wisconsin if asked, and if the problem is a good match for their talents and skills. And we do care a lot about what goes on around the state. It's why in the last year we've conducted a program called the State of Wisconsin Initiative to Fast Track Entrepreneurs, or SWIFT for short. Our most recent workshop was May 14th in Adams. We've been to 6 different locations around the state, all pretty much rural. And so we see some potential out there. And finally, earlier I mentioned the National Science Foundation and its Engines program. This is a planning grant essentially around water, energy, and manufacturing. That's one of them. The other is around sustainable agriculture and food just in general. Wisconsin received 2 of the 45 such grants around the country, and now it's competing for much bigger grants. We think that this could really help in parts of the state where, whether it's through the supply chain or more directly, well, what's going on in rural areas. If Wisconsin is able to land one or both of these grants, we think it's going to help a lot. Now, by the way, there's another one around medical technology that's through a different source, the Federal Economic Development Administration, and that will help too because we see that there's a rise in med tech, but also the need for med tech workers and their training throughout the state. Again, I'm sorry I couldn't be there with you live, but I hope to be back if Dave Ekman at the Chamber will have me, and appreciate it. Hope you have the rest of a great conference. Thank you.